Welcome to this Curator talk in which we will explore the In The Nood Collection of the Museum of Bad Art. I am Michael Frank, Curator-in-Chief. I'm speaking to you from the Museum of Bad Art, Ivory Tower. As Curator-in-Chief, I scour the thrift stores, yard sales, and interesting piles of trash looking for appropriate art for our collection. I'm also happy to receive art donated by fans of the museum from around the world. And of course, it's my awesome duty to interpretate every piece before sharing it with the public. Louise Riley Sacco is the Museum of Bad Art Permanent Interim Acting Executive Director. She will be co-hosting from a separate, secure location in the Museum of Bad Art Executive Office Suite. We will silence everyone's audio. You're welcome to use the chat function to make comments or ask questions. Like every other major museum, the Museum of Bad Art contains numerous life studies. Today we will explore the images of naked people in the MOBA collection. Please keep in mind that all the pieces in MOBA have been found in thrift stores, yard sales, piles of roadside trash, and occasionally by artists who feel they've lost control of a particular work. As the collection is subject to the vagaries of chance, please do not draw any unkind inferences about the fact that about 90% of the naked people in our collection are female. So far, it's just worked out that way. And in any case, our enjoyment of the art is strictly non-prurient in nature. Among the people with us are a number of artists and donors of some of the art we will see today. Please use the chat to identify yourself and take a virtual bow. So to put things in historical perspective, people have been making art featuring naked people for centuries. Long before we had access to the internet or even National Geographic magazine, it was an important tool for teaching adolescent boys basic information. Images of naked people can be found in prehistoric art, classic Greek sculpture, and pottery, ancient Roman statues, frescoes and mosaics. The trend continued into the Renaissance. And beyond. None of these is in the MOBA collection. Let's look at some pieces that are in the collection. Here we see a woman with a very long neck. She sits in a bare room on a chair that perfectly matches her body. This painting has been in the collection for a long time and has been largely overlooked. She's getting some attention now, though. Her face mask is interesting as it was painted 35 years before the great COVID-19 pandemic. As parks and beaches open for the summer, be careful. Loneliness in a blue lagoon. Her loneliness is the least of this woman's problems. Her visit to a blue lagoon has resulted in what promises to be a painful sunburn. This young woman realized she had made a terrible mistake as she woke from an ill-advised nap on her first day in the tropics. After 4 days and 3 nights of all-inclusive partying on the beach, Betty could not imagine flying home and going back to the office. This hastily executed impressionist painting effectively reminds us that, even if only optional, clothing is advisable when practicing yoga on a beach to avoid hatha sunburn. At the clothing optional beach, an attractive naked woman gazes unabashedly at the viewer while her friend remains modestly covered. Their dog seems totally uninterested. The MOBA curators believe this painting may belong in the Doppelhangers collection. We believe we know the identity of the naked woman. If you think you know who she is, please use the chat function to tell us. Disappointment. Their sunburns and the empty champagne bottle help explain the young man's regrettable inability to stay awake on the first night of his honeymoon. His new wife gazes blankly, wondering, is that all there is? Not everybody turns red. This is Green Goddess, a green-skinned nymphette, her bottom skinned by barnacles, sadly pondering her return to the depths of the murky ocean in the face of an unpleasant storm. The Stare. This is an intriguing life study of a red-haired man with very long appendages, wearing nothing but a pinky ring. The viewer is left to speculate about the cause of the massive hematoma on his left buttock. Palmeras 3. I bought this painting in a gallery in Cienfuegos, Cuba. The artist avoided the more technical challenges depicting the female anatomy, opting instead to concentrate on the most important parts. One of the woman trees is actually assuming a tree pose. An eye for an eye. This woman tree unquestionably is crying out for help that will never come. Her morphing arborescent figure, faceless and in shame, is reaching upward for sustenance while a torrent of tearful eyes cascades about her, threatening to bury her in her own psychosexual drift. This is another masterpiece I bought in Cuba. Feminine Fecundity. Damp tropical heat radiates from this surreal depiction of shapely female fertility. Among the interesting details are the vine emanating from the navel of the figure on the right and the north-south-east-west divergence of her friend's bosom. Woman on a blanket. The artist asked her model to lie on the floor next to a waste paper basket. The painting is not a typical life study, but rather suggestive of a crime scene photo. And this is Gina's Demons. Frightening, non-kosher demons haunt this blonde, blue-eyed beauty in a see-through blouse. Her world is cracking apart at the edges, but her careful hairdo and makeup show us that she knows it's important to keep up appearances. James the male model. Humiliated by being asked to pose wearing nothing but a Davy Crockett hat, James reflected upon the fact that his modeling career was dwindling and made a silent vow to renew his membership at the gym. And this is Gilded Nude. The viewer is struck immediately by the youthful female subject's oversized left arm. I'm very sorry to report that this painting has been stolen from our gallery, but we do have this one. This Goldfinger girl seems to be hurtling through space on a magic carpet made of throw pillows. And this is the woman with big pants. Reclining on a daybed, the faceless Zoftig model proudly displays her very large and perfectly aligned feet. Her pose is reminiscent of the nude Maha by Francisco Goya. And this is another large one. This was done on a piece of plywood. Amazons at Play. We see a surreal, misandric image of giants on a bucolic outing. Three young women play with flying machines and relieve themselves, while the only male in the scene is splayed open as a humiliated vessel. The artist took liberties with perspective, but paid meticulous attention to anatomic details such as the central figure's underboob shadows and thigh gap. Museum curators believe this image was inspired by the controversial 1969 album cover of the English group Blind Faith, featuring Bob Seiderman's photograph of a young girl holding a toy airplane. Flamin' hot cheerleaders. A squad of cheerleaders with washboard abs celebrates a touchdown, although none of them seems particularly happy about it. And here's another woman with washboard abs. Her well-defined abdominal muscles are a testament to her commitment to good nutrition and vigorous exercise. Bare-breasted blind Lady Justice is portrayed here in a variation on a traditional theme. Rather than cover her face with a blindfold, the artist depicted her with no eyes. While she is often depicted holding scales of justice, a sword, or a book, in this painting she is juggling a ball of dreaded kryptonite in her ample hand at the end of The Long Arm of the Law. I bought this painting in a thrift store in my neighborhood. About a year earlier, in the same store, I bought this painting, which may be a study for Long Arm of the Law. It's interesting that there are many religious paintings featuring naked people in most museum collections. While there are many religious images in our collection, we only have one that features naked people. Well, not exactly people. This is Alien Adam and Eve. When she offered to donate the painting, the artist offered a detailed discussion. She wrote, "I'm an atheist, so I depicted Adam and Eve as purple aliens. I put them in a landscape garden, a comment on today's suburban paradise and the Garden of Eden. The viewer looks out a kitchen window to see Adam and Eve picking apples in a manicured backyard with an apple pie cooling on the window ledge. Did the aliens bake the pie? Did the viewer? What does it mean to bake and eat a pie made from a symbol of knowledge?" My response to her was, I love apple pie." Nude on a green couch. The model, whose red hair matches the wall color almost perfectly, leans to her right in a pose designed to help the artist avoid the difficulty of portraying her hands. In doing so, she seems to have dislocated her left hip. The hint of gender ambiguity adds intrigue to the painting. Similarly, this painting seems to be a portrait of a woman with beautiful long hair. Or is it? Nude with folding chair. The subject of this life study is depicted listing slightly to port, shrinking away from his purple shadow that looms menacingly. His pain must be physical as well as psychic, as one of the legs of the chair on which he leans sits squarely on his left foot. It's also interesting to see the way the artist portrayed the legs of the chair. He was apparently inspired by the optical illusions of M.C. Escher, whose outlandish drawings depict realistic-looking, yet impossible, structures. In this life-size self-portrait, the artist bravely portrays himself as an immodest street performer in the city by the bay. His canine facial features make this painting reminiscent of another in the collection, Bone Juggling Dog Wearing a Hula Skirt by Mary Newman. This is a fine example of what we call labor-intensive pointlessism. Another painting in the collection that features that technique is this classic Sunday on the Pot with George. Can the swirling steam melt away the huge weight of George's corporate responsibilities? This is Pauline resting. The cares of the day slip away, and the first flush of sleep brings color to Pauline's innocent cheek. Museum curators believe that this work, along with many others in the collection, may have been affected by the artist's never having actually seen a naked woman. The anonymous painter was clearly inspired by the work of Amedeo Modigliani, an important Italian painter and sculptor who lived in Paris in the early 20th century. The artist also may have been influenced by the painting on the cover of a solo classical guitar album by Steve Hackett of Genesis, released in 1986. The painting was done by his wife, Kim Poor. Queen of Hearts. Wearing uncomfortable high-heel pumps and an ill-fitting sheer bodysuit, the plus-size woman struggles to fit into her allotted space in this painting. The artist may have intended to challenge society's definition of feminine beauty, or simply run out of room. And similarly, here is the contortionist. Looking somewhat uncomfortable, the lithe female subject is confined to the shape of the canvas in this revealing portrait. In The Itch, we see an apparently double-jointed young woman simultaneously scratching her right side with her left hand and the back of her neck with her right. Her blissful smile possibly indicates temporary relief from a torturous case of scabies. The cupboard was bare. Terror grips the little dog. His left paw pushes as if to say, "You go first." The large figure behind lurks, holding his pet, but not his mate. At one time there was a door attached to the canvas right above the painted door, but it's not attached anymore. We'll have to find it. The better to see you, my dear. Attempting to combat the pervasive sense of isolation in modern society, the artist presents a bold post-cubist image that compels the viewer to make direct eye contact. In Winged Pixie, we see a diminutive dancer taut with energy, frantic in her attempts to flee an overactive mind. This is a panoramic view of the seldom visited women's section of Easter Island, a tiny, isolated Polynesian island famous for its ancient stone figures known as moai. Time and gravity have clearly taken their toll on this particular ancient statue. Nude before a mirror. The artist probably painted the woman from life and added the background from memory without really understanding how mirrors work. Nude with no hands. This painting is most interesting as an illustration of the extent many artists will go to avoid representing human arms, legs, hands, and feet. Lovely Hula Girl. Possibly inspired by Paul Gauguin, the artist depicts a blonde, all-American girl next door gone native. Rather than a traditional Hawaiian grass skirt or Tahitian sarong, she wears only boxer shorts.
I'm Chiquita Banana, and I've come to say I come from Little Island.
Oblivious to the advancing lava flow, the iconic tropical spokeswoman tries to convince us to forget our troubles as she poses like Eve in the Garden of Eden, calmly giving us an alluring wink of the eye. Perky Rubenesque clouds float in a cerulean sky in silicone clouds. Hot red woman, how low can you go? Mary Newman is a very prolific outsider artist in Minneapolis. At one point, she made a series of three-dimensional pieces using hot water bottles, pieces of dolls, and other found objects. She sent Chocolate Love Barbie as a Valentine's gift one year. This man's skin color indicates the water was not as warm as usual at the Turkish bath. A young woman boldly turns to gaze at the viewer. She holds a flower of precisely the same color as her piercing blue eyes and whatever that thing is on her head. A young woman lies on her stomach with her hands on her chin and her legs kicking in the air in this portrait of teenage ennui. She seems to have no joie de vivre. She also has no pants. A violent sneeze results in a wardrobe malfunction for a beautiful Asian woman. The inscription, loosely translated, reads, "Is that a katana in your kimono, or are you just happy to see me?" This may have been inspired by an early 19th century hanging scroll by Utagawa Toyokuni, courtesan in her boudoir. Coffee break, woman with muffin. Looking totally relaxed as she strikes a classic pose, a woman with neatly trimmed hair wears only high-heel slides that accentuate her slender ankles. Her nudity distracts most viewers from noticing her unusual right arm, which she uses to gracefully hold a cup of steaming java. I'd like to return to look at the first painting we saw today. Wait a minute, let's zoom in a little bit. This is unbelievable. This painting was made in 1985, and she's wearing official MOBA pandemic gear. Wow. If you'd like to get some official Museum of Bad Art pandemic gear, send us an email to moba@museumofbadart.org. For a $20 donation to the Museum of Bad Art, we will send you a face mask featuring either Lucy in the Field with Flowers or Pablo Presley. If you're one of those people who does not wear face masks, you can go to our gift shop and find all kinds of other merchandise for sale. If you don't need any of this stuff and you would still like to support your favorite museum, you can make a donation at museumofbadart.org/donate. If you'd like to donate art to the museum, send me an email at curator@museumofbadart.org. You can see all the live Curator talks, as well as many shorter, fun, and very educational Curator talks at our YouTube channel, youtube.com/MOBACurator/videos. And you can keep abreast of our activities by following our page on Facebook. Thanks for your interest in the Museum of Bad Art. Stay well.